And that's actually things that are happening online. People are grabbing. I have like ping pong matches, how we call it, with for example, Matthew Watkins from Italy. So it's like I paint something, and then he grabs it and he paints over it. And through this course of exchanging pieces, we're telling stories. And the other thing is that, and that was essential for me, is that putting things online like completely shortened the feedback cycle for me, because it's like the moment of creation and the moment of reception kind of contracts so quickly to a short time frame that I'm painting something and I'm putting it online, and like 30 minutes later I'm already getting feedback. So I really couldn't imagine to do it in another way. Like I couldn't imagine to just sit in my studio and paint for like days or weeks, and then maybe some months later I can put it up in a gallery or something. And that's just the moment of creation and moment of reception will be way too far apart for me.
Have you noticed similar things, Matt? I mean, I know that you've been really active, and that's where we met. Commenting on each other's work, and also like beta testing. But
right.
Have you noticed the kind of the same things of how that's affected you creatively?
Definitely. I find that I'm looking at more people's work than I had been. It creates these natural tangents where someone comments on something. Maybe they reference an artist, another artist that's on Flickr, or a famous artist from 50 years ago. So you start breaking out and looking at those other things and then bringing it back and educating your own process and changing your own process. And I think that's the interesting thing, that you're more likely to try different things because of all these tangents off of your normal workflow. And I don't think that would be possible without that kind of web collaboration.
Without people really kind of
right.
making
The people are making it happen, and the people are driving the software forward. And that's what makes it most interesting for me.
So let's kind of roll back and go back right to that cusp where they announced that there would be an SDK where developers could create applications on the iPhone. And obviously apps started coming out, and the mere fact that there was starting to be these type of tools that were content creation versus content consumption. Do you have kind of any thoughts, like just in general, about did you think it was likely or possible when you saw people creating on a device like that, or the idea of it?
No, I really didn't. And there's kind of a funny story in my work that when the first George Colombo cover for the New Yorker came in,
right.
and it was in a different app. But
it was done in Brush's app.
The first time that file came across my desk, and it was a .brushes file, I was one of those folks who just said, "Look, this couldn't have been done on an iPad." And I definitely wanted to find out for myself. And that very day, I downloaded the app and half a dozen other apps, and I just started playing with different versions of software to just see what it could do. And
so that sparked your curiosity.
Oh yeah, in a big way.
The New Yorker cover was really an epiphany for many people, because
right.
it was the mere fact that, and it was big news because something that was on a cover of a major publication was created on a device, that you had in your pocket.
Yeah.
What was your kind of reaction to this? And you mentioned it earlier that you could do stuff in your pocket that you hadn't done in years, Benjamin.
Yeah, it was. I think my first impression of it was through the work by Steph Cardo, the Disney art director. I think he's actually the guy who kicked the whole thing off, because it was, I think, like February 2009, I believe, and he made those very, very quick sketches of the Californian nights and sunsets, and it was like this small internet phenomenon. And I saw that, and he used all those quick, broad strokes. So I saw it, and I thought, well, it's a nice way to play with colors and just learn a bit more about colors. And I think, and that was the moment actually when I got into the Flickr group, where I met all those people. And the first pieces of those people were all very, very simple, very testing the thing out. But it took only like a week or so, and people got way more detailed and way more elaborate on that. And
when you say it's almost like every piece that came out, people were trying to push it more
to see
what was possible.
Yeah, that's the cool thing, because I was talking to Susan earlier. If it could be compared to the time when desktop publishing came in, because it was the same thing. There was no to-dos. There were no other people who could tell you how to do it. You really had to discover it, and I think that's where the Flickr group really came in and bloomed, because we were just a set of people kind of discovering how to paint on such a small device and how to use these brushes, and we kept exchanging tips and ideas about that. And I think that's a rare moment. That's probably only possible if you cross like arts and technology.
David, for you, it was actually the iPad that had your spark moment, wasn't it? The phone wasn't necessarily interesting to you until you actually used the app on a larger device, correct?
I tried using Sketchbook Mobile on the iPhone, and I enjoyed it, but the form factor was not right for me. But when I downloaded and tried it on the iPad, it was a revelation. And it was very exciting to see what I could do. And I needed to be able to try different modes of painting people, first working just black and white, inspired by my normal black and white ink brush on paper painting. I did a couple of them at the Chirp Twitter Developers Conference. Then I realized it's time to cut over to color. And I did, and I realized that I had a sculptural medium, that I could work really with form in 3 dimensions that I just couldn't do with black and white. And it was malleable, and it really felt rich and emotional, whereas as good as black and white is, ink on paper, it doesn't have the richness that Sketchbook Pro let me have on the iPad.
Well, the incredible thing is when we talk about this as though it's history, we're really talking about the iPad launch in April of this year, April 3rd. It was a Saturday. So that experience that you've gone through is essentially half a year. Where do you think your art's been going? Like you talked about exploring color, but you're now working on a pretty interesting series. Could you tell us a little bit about what you're trying to achieve?
Well, the series that I started back in, I think it was September of '06, is Portraits of Innovators in Silicon Valley. And I've been painting at Yahoo Hack Days and Google I/O, at the PayPal X Innovate conference for a couple of years in a row, painting portraits of attendees and painting portraits of people who are deep in the creative modes, creating really the future. They're developing software, developing apps, developing platforms. And I feel as if we're living through a revolution in software innovation. And it should be captured, and it should be put on the walls of galleries and museums, because this time will never come again. Somebody should have been there to document the people who created Facebook at the very beginning, and those times are gone. But we have an opportunity to document what's happening in the world of software development. And I'm using my iPad and Sketchbook Pro to do it.
Benjamin, we've talked about this, and it's interesting because you don't like to label yourself as an artist. You obviously have a very busy career. How does the art impact your life?
Well, it completely changed my life. That's really a given, I guess. Like I said, 2 years ago, I still was working on web design, and now I'm having exhibitions. This is like my 10th exhibition this year. So it's another serendipity moment, and I think, like you said, that's something that's probably only going to happen in times like these, where things are changing so rapidly, and where you practically have to define your own world again, or over and over, and actually recreate it over the time. So it's something I did in the web world too, and it's just, I really love to port the ideas over to art now, or to painting, because that's why I personally don't like to call myself an artist, because that's probably something others might want to do, and I'm okay with that.
How about you, Matt? Because your work keeps you quite busy.
Right.
And you mostly rely on your phone for this creative outlet. How do you combine them?
combine the work and
the art.
painting. Well, it's interesting because I felt like at first I was just doing it in between spaces, sort of when I was on the bus and when I was commuting and when I had a little bit of downtime if I was waiting in line for the post office. But the more and more I worked on my finger paintings, the more it became something that I wanted to do as my primary kind of work environment. I mean, not to say that I'm switching gears and becoming more of a finger painter than I am at my day job, but I find that it's taking more of my time in a good way, that I'm focusing my efforts much more than I had been. Like I was considering it as something I did just in idle time, but now I feel like art has come back to be more of the center of my life when it was
Once on the side.
It was on the side.
Yeah.
It really was, and it was neglected.
That's amazing.
And I feel like it's been great for me, and it's given me kind of a breath of fresh air.
Well, we're actually coming up to the end of our time, but I actually just wanted to run down the line quickly and just ask. So what do you think of this show? How has this changed your view of Autodesk, of the team and the people who make all this 2D and 3D software? What are your thoughts?
This show is incredible. You know, it's fantastic in its scope, and I've actually been participating in a lot of the classes just because I do, in part of my day job is I work in 3D. You know, I work essentially in Maya almost every day. So I'm trying to learn what else there is to offer, you know, from Autodesk in terms of the tools. So it's been great to see all of that and meet people.
Wow,
But also
hundreds of people are really experiencing your art.
Yeah, yeah, and it's great to see and meet the other folks who are creating the finger paintings and part of the 10 by 10 show, because it's just an incredible group and very, very humble.
Yeah,
Benjamin?
yeah. I think there's not many moments as beautiful as when you stand in front of you see your pieces on the wall and you see people coming up and kind of standing in front of it and really studying the things and smiling or reading the facts about you, and then you get to talk to those people and that's brilliant. That's just a great thing that this can happen here at the conference. I'm really thankful for that.
We're so thankful to have your work. David?
Well, I've enjoyed meeting all of the other artists, and I'm looking forward to learning about how you work. And I think that this is really just the beginning of creating a community that can get together with future meetings, both in San Francisco and elsewhere in the world. So I see it really as just the beginning.
Well, I personally want to thank all of you for not only participating in this interview, but for sharing all of your artwork with not only the attendees at the show, because we're making available a series of videos that feature all the art of all the 10 artists being featured, the 100 pieces at our mobile art gallery. So I definitely encourage all viewers to check out additional material that we're going to be posting so that you can see for yourself the artwork that we have. Incredible work, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.